South Africa is entering a period of growing international tension and strategic uncertainty as its foreign policy direction faces mounting scrutiny from global powers, particularly the United States, raising serious concerns about whether the country is drifting into a position that could undermine its economic interests and diplomatic stability at a time when both are critically needed. At the center of this debate is the perception that South Africa is no longer maintaining a carefully balanced, non-aligned stance, but instead is moving closer to a bloc of nations that are increasingly at odds with Western powers, particularly through its deepening involvement in BRICS, where its partnerships with countries like Russia, China, and Iran have begun to reshape how it is viewed on the global stage. This shift has not gone unnoticed in Washington, especially during the administration of Donald Trump, where concerns have been raised about South Africa's positions on key geopolitical issues, including its vocal support for Palestine, its engagement with Iran, and its broader alignment with countries that are often seen as strategic competitors to the United States, creating a growing sense of diplomatic friction. What makes this situation particularly complex is that South Africa has consistently defended its foreign policy as one rooted in sovereignty, independence, and a commitment to multilateralism, arguing that its engagement with multiple global partners reflects a desire to maintain strategic autonomy rather than align exclusively with any single power bloc. However, this argument is increasingly being tested against economic realities, because while political alignment may be flexible, trade relationships are far less forgiving, and the United States remains one of South Africa's most significant economic partners, with trade frameworks like African Growth and Opportunity Act playing a crucial role in supporting key industries, from manufacturing to agriculture. The risk now is that political positioning could begin to affect economic outcomes, particularly if tensions escalate to a point where preferential trade agreements are reconsidered or investment flows are disrupted, a scenario that would have immediate and tangible consequences for an economy already grappling with high unemployment and slow growth. This is why the current moment is so critical, because it represents a turning point where foreign policy is no longer an abstract debate among diplomats, but a practical issue that could directly impact jobs, investment, and economic stability, making the stakes far higher than they may initially appear. At the same time, South Africa's stance on global conflicts, particularly its vocal advocacy on the Palestinian issue, has reinforced its image as a country willing to take strong moral positions on the international stage. But it has also contributed to tensions with Western allies who may view such positions through a different strategic lens, further complicating diplomatic relationships. The involvement with Iran adds another layer of complexity, as it places South Africa within a network of relationships that are closely monitored by the United States and its allies, raising questions about compliance, alignment, and the broader implications for international cooperation in areas such as security and trade. Meanwhile, South Africa's active participation in BRICS has opened new opportunities for economic cooperation and global influence, but it has also intensified perceptions that the country is shifting away from traditional Western partnerships, creating a delicate balancing act that requires careful management to avoid unintended consequences. This is where the criticism becomes sharper, because some analysts argue that South Africa is attempting to play both sides without fully acknowledging the risks involved, maintaining strong ties with Western economies while simultaneously deepening relationships with their strategic rivals, a strategy that is more sustainable in the short term but becomes increasingly difficult to maintain as global tensions rise. The challenge, therefore, is not just about choosing partners, but about managing perceptions, because in international relations, perception often shapes reality, and the way South Africa is viewed by key stakeholders will influence decisions on trade, investment, and diplomatic engagement, regardless of its stated intentions. At the same time, domestic political considerations cannot be ignored, because foreign policy decisions are often influenced by internal dynamics, including ideological positions, historical alliances, and public sentiment, all of which play a role in shaping how the government navigates complex global issues. This creates a situation where South Africa must carefully balance its commitment to independence with the practical need to maintain strong economic relationships, a task that becomes increasingly challenging in a world where geopolitical competition is intensifying and neutrality is becoming harder to sustain. Ultimately, the question is not whether South Africa has the right to pursue an independent foreign policy, because that right is clear, but whether its current approach is strategically aligned with its long-term interests, particularly in a global environment where economic and political pressures are closely intertwined. As tensions continue to evolve and global alignments shift, the decisions made now will have lasting consequences, shaping not only South Africa's position on the world stage, but also its economic future and its ability to navigate an increasingly complex international landscape. What is clear is that the country is at a crossroads, and the path it chooses will determine whether it can successfully balance its ambitions for global influence with the realities of economic dependence and geopolitical pressure.